Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back. Another Poe Massive video. And tonight, finally, finally, we are getting the champion of Kalos, Diantha in the game. It's been a very long time coming. Endured through the endless jokes and ridicule about her not being in the game. She's finally gonna be actually in the game. Not just on the title screen, not just in like a story event, not just someone mentioning her in a dialogue. She's like gonna be like in the game, summerable and playable, which is a fantastic moment. And honestly a win for humanity, really, if you think about it. So, anyways, I obviously will be summoning for her live when that drops. So go come join, check it out, see what's good, right? Maybe it could give you, rub off some good luck on you guys, even though usually my summon luck is not like extremely great. I get shafted a lot, but hopefully I don't get shafted. And if I do get shafted, hopefully it means that you guys get better summon luck at least. So anyways, let's talk about Diantha Gardevoir. So Diantha Gardevoir is pretty nice, right? First of all, she is the strongest hitting, in terms of like normal like non-sync move damage. She does have the basically the highest in the game, which is really good, right? And also she is another one of those rare damage healers that could hit like a solid 600k or so, right? Without terrain or weather, right? Which is always really nice to see. A lot of there really aren't that many units I could do. Like, so there's stuff like fully buffed, like Houndoom, like more Peko, like Lance. Again, there really aren't too many units I could actually do that, right? Outside of the terrain and weather without those buffs. And again, like I mentioned before, Gardevoir is one of those that could actually give you a really good run for that, right? So let's get into that and kind of talk about her kit and each sync level, right? How many do you need, all that stuff, right? So looking at her base kit, her stats, right? Regular Gardevoir is actually really bad. If you like, well, I wouldn't say really bad, but like Mega Gardevoir just gets so much better, right? So like most times you would want to like run teams where you are free to like let Gardevoir Mega, right? So because outside of just stats, the other thing is like her passive, you have mutually assured when you're like non-mega, which is really bad. So after you mega, you get fairy power 5 instead, which is pretty insane, right? That's extra 50% multiplier over there, which again is really nice. So looking at like Mega Gardevoir, right? You got 662 HP, which is a lot of HP, honestly, right? That's a lot of HP. No one cares about the attack. 177 defense, which is nice. 443 special attack, which is really good, right? And you got 157 special defense, which is not the best, but you do get special defense buffs on her trainer move, right? And then her speed's okay-ish, not too great, right? As for the moves, you got Dazzling Gleam, which is Dazzling Gleam, right? Then you got Dire Hit Plus, which is Dire Hit Plus, Moonblast, which is your main damaging move, and you got Time to Shine, which sharply raises your special attack and special defense, and then also gives you 3 gauges if it's used by Mega Gardevoir. So the interesting thing over here, her sync move, just a regular Mega sync move, low damage, nothing too special, you become Mega, right? As for your passive, you have a really interesting passive called Hit the Gas 5, which increases the amount of move gauges that you need for attacking moves by 1 and powers up the moves by 50%. So basically what it does, it turns your Moonblast into a 4 gauge move, turns your Dazzling Gleam to a 3 gauge move. However, it to compensate for that, it gives an extra 50% damage buff, right? So the trade-off is you use 1 more gauge, but it does 50% more. So it kind of turns like Moonblast into like a 4 gauge move, right? Basically, sorta, right? In a sense. so that's definitely nice, right? At least, so I think it's nice. Again, obviously there are some issues. Maybe Gardevoir gauge wise is slightly could be a bit of an issue because again, speed's not that great, and then you have to go for that 4 gauge move. But again, the damage is just fantastic, right? Reminds me a bit of like sort of like Dragonite, right? I think they also have like pretty similar like speed stats as well, right? So it's kind of like a fairy Dragonite in that sense, right? in terms of your gauge management versus damage output, right? Then you have Propulsion 1, which is not great. Well, it's okay if you couldn't get like a quad Q in, right? That could help. And then you got Fairy Power 5, which straight up just powers up your Fairy type moves by another 50%. So you get, so once you Mega, you get 100% damage buff on Moonblast, for the cost of just using one gauge, right? Which is really, really nice, or one extra gauge. So moving on to your kit, right? You have some things in here. It's not a great grid, unfortunately, but you do have, again, some solid stuff in here. The double Moonblast move gauge refresh is definitely helpful because, again, you would have like some gauge issues from time to time. As for some other stuff, you have Time to Shine Fleet Feet, which is +1 speed, which you could pick up, but again, instead I'd probably just run some dedicated speed support instead, which is that's obviously used on the trainer move, which you could use twice to get like +2 over there, unless you get obviously more MP refreshes, but she only has like MP refresh 2 on her trainer move, so I probably wouldn't go for that unless you just can't run it like any special attack buffing units on your team. Then okay, you could gamble for that. But as for some other stuff, you have Double Down 2 and Devastation. So like outside of that, like most of your stuff is just like buffing your sync move damage, which is okay. Like she could do some solid damage on her sync nuke. But the setup is slightly awkward. Because it's not like you have like even like honor roll on like your Moonblast, because Moonblast does have a moderate chance of lowering the opponent's special attack, which even without honor roll you could still trigger it an okayish amount of times. But if you are trying to like run Devastation, which again you do need the opponent's special attack to be lower, you probably would want to run a dedicated special attack debuffer, right? If you have Champion Iris, you could do that. Which Champion Iris could also help with the gauges as well, right? With the move gauge acceleration for a bit, right? Before it runs out. And if you don't have Champion Iris, you could do something like Masquerain or Voltorb, whatever, or Electrode, I guess. As for some other stuff, Quick Cure is not really, it's situational. Head Start is not extremely useful either, unless again you just have someone like that could make this useful to get enough sync move countdown, right? Then you got Dazzling Gleam Super Duper Effective 1, which honestly your Dazzling Gleam could do like okayish amounts of damage, right? Just because again, like all the multipliers that you get, which is pretty nice, but yeah, Gardevoir, good damage, right? Overall, as a unit, and again, it does have like some gauge issues that you sort of have to pay attention to, but overall pretty nice. So now let's look at the in terms of how, if you are going to summon for like how many copies, right? So for Gardevoir over here, right? At 1 out of 5, you really don't get like anything. You get like 2 Moonblast power-ups, and then like Quick Cure, like 2,000 Gleam power-ups, and Dauntless, I guess. But like outside of that, you don't really get anything too special. Not even like any like really interesting stat nodes. You got like there's like 1 special attack here, 1 to 2 speed, special attack, speed. But they're all like the really small +5 ones. So you really don't have much at 1 out of 5, unfortunately. At 2 out of 5, you do get like 1 move gauge refresh for Moonblast, which is nice. But outside of that, you really don't get much either. You get a your trainer move MP refresh, also move gauge refresh for Dazzling Gleam as well. Which honestly, Dazzling Gleam could actually be pretty decently viable if you really want to like run an AOE fairy unit for some reason. Like it could do solid damage, right? But you also don't get much at 2 out of 5. Most of our stuff does come at 3 out of 5. With Devastation, Double Down, Super Duper Effective on Dazzling Gleam, Fleet Feet on Time to Shine. But honestly, none of these are like really that great. So like in my opinion, like 1 out of 5 Gardevoir is good enough because most of her stuff is just on her like base kit, right? Like her grid is just really nothing too crazy, right? Like okay, you have Devastation, but then again, it's might be better if you don't like run Devastation, like you run like a support EX instead, or something, I guess. Like it really depends on what units. Like if you have like a champion Iris or something, then you could run that, which is nice. But like if you also have something like I don't know, if you have like Palatine Serena, you might want to like use that to sync nuke instead. But Devastation is nice, but the other downside, like, oh, it's good in Master Mode, but like something like Full Force Battle 3v9s that is like slightly annoying to set up. But I don't think it's like that big of a deal if you don't pick it up. Like her Moonblast just does so much damage that like if you miss out on like Devastation, it's not the end of the world. So again, especially if you're like don't have that many gems, or if you're trying to like save for any like the upcoming units next month. Although honestly, I don't really think any like a lot of the units next month are like that great, right? And then none of them are bad, but they're nothing crazy. So I do think Diantha would be a pretty safe banner to go in, right? But I don't really think you need 3 out of 5. So you'd either go for like 1 out of 5. If you don't have that many gems, go for just 1 copy. Or if you have a lot of gems, I go for 3 copies. I just wouldn't sell for 2 copies because like 2 out of 5, she really gets like nothing, right? Again, just move gauge refresh, 1 move gauge refresh and move blast, which is nice, but like I don't really think it's worth like unless you get like lucky on like 1 multi, you pull like 2 of those, then okay, congratulations. But yeah, I wouldn't be like aiming for 2 out of 5. You'd either just go like 1 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 in my opinion, which again I am leaning towards like 1 out of 5. Like she's just really, really solid at 1 out of 5, honestly. You really don't need the 3 out of 5 stuff. So yeah, like as for like the unit as a whole, do you need to summon for her? Not really, honestly. Like Xerneas, which is like free, right? Xerneas already like obliterates every single like Fairy Week stage. Even though she's a support, she does like pretty serious pretty decent fairy type damage with her Moonblast. Like, you don't really need Diantha to clear anything per se. It's just like if you really, really like Diantha, if you're a huge Gardevoir fan or whatever, then obviously you would probably want to go for that, right? But yeah, it's definitely not something like a must pull, or like if you have like, if you already have any like other fairy damage dealers like Sensation or Palatine's Serena, which in my opinion is probably a better unit overall than Gardevoir. So you really don't need her, but again, if you really like her, if you want her, all that stuff, then you should definitely go for her because she's definitely really, really good, right? So it's not gonna be a waste if you get her, but it's also not like something that like if you miss out on her, whatever, right? Because again, like a lot of the other banners, she will look like have reruns in the future, and hopefully, with like a really, really great rerun, because like a lot, again, like I mentioned before, I am a bit of an advocate for summoning on like Poke Fair reruns instead, just because they have like a combined 3% rate instead of like 2% rate, right? Or 4.5% rate, depending on if it's a dual banner or a triple banner, right? Which in that case scenario, you have a much higher chance to, you have a lower chance to pull the specific unit, but a higher chance overall to pull like one of the 2 or 3, right? So if like she reruns in the future with Champion Iris, that would be a really, really great opportunity over there to pick like both of them up. Both of them are obviously really, really nice, and they work together occasionally well, right? So that would that would be something to consider, right? I don't think you have to pull on the initial banner run unless you just don't really need anyone else. You got Champion Iris, you got like Alder or whoever else they might put her with in the future. Maybe like if they rerun, they could do like Champion Iris and Alder on banners since they're both like the Unova champions, or they could do like Diantha and Iris since they were in this like same story event together as well, right? Or like Diantha and Lance or whatever. But yeah, again, definitely not a must summon, but a really, really great unit, which I will be summoning tonight. So again, tune into that. So anyways, that's me with this one. I guess hope you guys enjoy. Let me guys think in the comments down below. Like enjoy the video, subscribe to our channel, so more comments, comments. See you guys in the next one.